and welcome back to another episode of The Jake Williams Show. I, of course, am your host, Jake Williams, episode 55. It's going to be an interesting episode this week, and it's one that I've wanted to do for quite some time. I just never got around to actually doing it, and I think now is the apt time to do it because I spent some time with, and it's another video game episode. So if you're not into the video game episodes, I'm sorry, but I think this one is going to be a broader one because this kind of brings in, it kind of overlaps with loud sports in a way. But this episode is going to be focused on sports video games and the problem with modern sports video games because they're not in a great place to me. And I know I'm not in the minority here. Now, sales-wise, they're still doing great, and I think these games are... It's weird, you know, we talked about when we had the recession in the Obama administration. We had the big recession, and we talked about how, you know, movies and movie theaters are recession-proof. It's something like that with sports games. I think they're always going to make money. No matter what, there will be people that aren't really in the world of video games and care about this kind of stuff, like someone like me who just they don't really play video games, and the only game that they play is they play Madden every year. That's it. They buy the new Madden and they have a good time with it. And look, that's fine if you still enjoy those games. Now, I'm not gonna make an episode calling you stupid or an idiot or anything for playing those games and enjoying them. I'm happy for you. I'm the kind of guy who has an opinion, obviously. I freaking run a podcast network called Loud and Opinionated. So I obviously have my opinions, and that's what the show is and always will be. But I'm also not the kind of guy that will hate on you or bash on you because you like something that I don't. I mean, I'll just tell you you're wrong, but I'm not going to blame you for it. That's what I want to get out from the outset. If you like Madden, if you play it every year, good for you. If you like NBA 2K, good for you. But I want you to know that the games that you love and the games that you enjoy are not perfect, and they come with problems. And there's a lot of baggage to these games. And I think the big problem is that we don't have an NCAA. That's really what the big problem is, if we get down to the nitty-gritty of it. It's the truth, man. Don't come at me, all right? It's the truth. But yes, there is a mind if I started through this? There's a major problem with the current state of video games in the sports. Video games in general are having problems, and I'll kind of touch on that before we get to the main topic. But before I do, be sure to check out the other shows on Loud and Opinionated. You're obviously checking out this show, but you can also check out Loud Sports. It's a show I do with Paul Rubidoux and Brennan Plecker, where we break down everything in the world of sports, mostly football related right now, but once that kind of tapers off, we'll probably go, like we did last year, go more into the NBA and talk more about basketball and things like that. It's a podcast for everybody. It's an Iowa and Midwest spin on it, so we'll talk about Huskers and Hawkeyes and Cyclones and all the stuff that goes around the Midwest with sports, so be sure to check that show out. We also have the Batcast that I do with Luke Moyer, that we talk anything and everything Batman, so pretty self-explanatory. We're hoping for a return to Super Cynical Cinema very soon. It's just, you know, all these other things got in the way of that, but we're hoping to make an illustrious comeback for that show. So, in the meantime, let's talk about sports games. So the reason I wanted to do this topic now versus when I wanted to do it many other times, over the weekend, holiday weekend, Thanksgiving, all this stuff's happening. Over the weekend, I got with an old friend named Madden, and I would probably be playing NCAA 14 if I'm being totally honest, but since my Xbox got the red ring of death, I haven't been able to play it, and it's devastating. It really is. I was extremely close to dropping like $50 at JCD and CB. I always want to say CD and Lobby. It's CD and Hobby in Des Moines. Almost dropped $50 and bought an Xbox 360 just to play NCAA. And Ashley talked me down, rightfully so. She's like, you're an adult. You have to make better decisions. And you don't need to play that video game, even though I do. And anybody that, come on, I mean, it's 2019 and I'm still playing a game from last console generation. It's going to be 2 console generations pretty soon in 2020 when this Xbox Scarlet comes out in the PS5. And I still want to play it, so it says a lot about that. But anyway, I'm playing Madden NFL 18, and we'll get to that why I'm playing 18 and not 20. We'll get to that. But I'm playing it, and there's just some moments in this game that drive me insane. And I'm not going to be like, there are tons of sports game YouTube channels. There's some great ones out there. I really like Not the Expert. Shout out to Not the Expert. And there are other good ones. Oh, gosh, I'm going to botch. I think it was, is it Drew? Ryan Moody 21. Drew is Not the Expert. But Ryan Moody 21, he has like almost a whole YouTube channel dedicated to him trashing on Madden. Which is fine, man, if that's what you want to do. And look, I get it. I do. We want better football games. I just think that he dedicates a lot of time to Madden. For someone who says they points out all the flaws to Madden, he does do a lot of videos about it. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just making an observation. So, if this somehow reaches him, I want him to know I'm not talking trash. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying he does make a lot of Madden videos. Anyway, so I have watched them, and clearly I like them because I've watched them before, and I understand the issues that he has had with Madden, and he's not the only one. It's now Soft Drink TV, I think, but Soft Drink Sports, now it's Soft Drink TV. He's done videos about Madden. I mean, there's tons of videos on YouTube talking about the issues with Madden, and I think they're all pretty valid. I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of the issues that they have with Madden are valid. But there's one moment when I was playing it, I started a new franchise, and just to be a troll to myself, I guess. I'm not putting this on YouTube or anything. Maybe for the story on this podcast. I don't know. But I started this season with the Buffalo Bills because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get them the 1. I'm going to get them the 1 after all those times when they didn't get in the 90s. I'm going to get them the 1. So I started the season, but for the lulls, I picked up Colin Kaepernick for the lulls and made him my starting quarterback. And there's one moment in, I think it was the second game. Yeah, it was the second game of the franchise. I'm playing it. It's late in the game. I'm trying to run out the clock. And I scramble out with Kaepernick. And I'm playing on Xbox. I hit the X button to slide. Now, this is the issue that you run into with Madden and their control scheme, and it's been this way for years. When you're running the football as a ball carrier, i.e. a running back or receiver, and you dive, or you hit the X button, it's to dive forward for extra yardage. When you're a quarterback, it's supposed to let you slide and avoid contact, which I was trying to do because I knew in the game that Kaepernick had fumble issues. So I knew to get down before contact. I hit the X button to slide. He starts a dive animation, and he fumbles. And they pick it up. And that really irked me because that is not the first time I have had that animation happen. It has happened multiple times in different EA football games, not just Madden, but also NCAA, where it is predetermined and pre-programmed to have you dive and fumble the ball. And I was frustrated with this, and that's kind of set forth emotion in this. Now, I know it sounds extremely petty to make a whole podcast dedicated to that, and I'm not. I'm just saying that was the final straw. That was it. Because I was thinking, well, this is just perfect timing. I was playing it over this weekend. I was thinking of different episodes to do that I haven't, concepts for episodes I wanted to do I haven't done yet. Here we go. This is just the beginning of it, okay? So by the way, I won that game. So that one play isn't at all what is the basis for this podcast. What the basis for this podcast is, I've been upset with the product for years, and I only play it because it's the only game in town. It's the only really good game in town, and it's the only game that they have the resources to make it as good as it is. That being said, you can... Okay, let's just start with this, because I'm going to get this all jumbled up. I want to keep this in order. Madden has a monopoly on NFL video games. They've had it since 2005. Now, I could be wrong. I'm going to do a quick search here, because I could be wrong, because I heard that the NFL exclusivity rights for Madden had ended recently, but it's annoying that this is something that exists, because I remember the PS2 era and the Xbox era. It was great because you had so much variety in NFL games and college games for that matter, but again, because EA Sports had the resources and the money, they kind of just ran out the competition. But you had variety. You had NFL Fever. You had ESPN's NFL. The NFL 2K games are solely what caused the problem with Madden. There's tons of YouTube videos and documentaries and stuff like that about it. I'm not going to get into that because you've heard it before. You know what it is. So I'm not going to go into that. But it's so frustrating that that different variety and that different approach to football kind of gets eliminated because Madden NFL exists. Now, have there been games since then to make a pro football game that doesn't have the NFL license? Yes, they have. But I'm not saying you need the NFL license to be successful, but it sure as hell helps, because you also have to remember who are buying these games. And you also have to think of who are buying these games for these people. Because a lot of times it's parents going out on Black Friday, like what we just had, and buying these games for their kids to play. And they don't necessarily, I'm not saying all parents, but probably a good portion of parents don't pay attention to like IGN or GameSpot or something like that to get a review and be like, well, it's not the NFL, but it's a good football game. No, they're just going to see Madden, NFL, they're going to see that name recognition, and they're going to pick that game up and give it to their kid. No questions about it, and it's cheaper, so boom, they'll do that. No problem. And that's the thing that annoys me the most, is Madden's name recognition has created a monopoly on football, let alone the fact that they have exclusivity rights. And I couldn't find it. I looked for that real quick. I couldn't see it. But other than that, that's what they have. And I don't want to disparage anybody's talent at EA Sports, any developer's talent, anybody like that. I don't have the mental capacity to program a website, let alone program a video game and code and do all that. It takes talent and it takes a lot of effort and ability, and I'm not going to disparage people's ability. But when you are Madden and you have essentially no competition, and that's kind of the beauty of this, is Madden has done what the NFL has done, where they've created a monopoly in the genre. And because of that, and no competition, you're going to get a little lazy. I'm sorry. It's consistently lazy. And it doesn't help that these people that put a lot of time and effort into it, they don't get much time with their families, That's the big thing. It's consistently lazy. They reuse assets. They reuse animations. And it's not a physics-based system. And, I mean, take Rocket League, for example. A much smaller team than EA Sports. And obviously, they're different. But Rocket League, with a smaller team, has built up such a big community and such good faith and consistently good because it is able to have a focus and it's able to use a physics engine other than an animation engine. Because when you have an animation engine, you only get so many tackles and catches and different things in the game. Whereas if you use a physics engine, you're going to get a lot more variety in different things. Look at Backbreaker, a video game that nobody probably played in the seventh. Do they call it the seventh generation? 360 and PS3. Point is, a game. Sorry about that. My mic kind of made a weird noise a little bit ago. The point is, That was a fun game. It was physics-based, and it tried something different, but it didn't make enough money because Madden. Because and that's the thing that annoys me so much about I'm not going to get political, but the free market. And we always talk about the free market and competition. The best competition always rises to the top. And it does in most cases, and competition makes games better. But again, when you have the biggest name brand in town and you've built a 20-plus year legacy, it's going to be really hard to have anybody compete. It's just the simple matter. And honestly, I get it. I really do. Because Madden, for the most part, gameplay-wise, isn't a bad game. Gameplay-wise, if you look at the broader scale, yes, there are small things. And again, you go watch a Ryan Moody video, and he'll explain why everything is bad. And he's probably that's more of his wheelhouse than me. But that's this thing. I don't think it's extremely terrible game. It's just consistently lazy, and it's really hard to make a game not seem consistently lazy when you put these devs through such a hellacious schedule. I mean, you sit there, you put the game out, and then as soon as the game's out, boom, you're on to Madden 2021. There's no waiting involved. I'm sure there might be some sort of grace period, but then you got to fine-tune the game and constantly update it, and then too late. Once August rolls around, you have to have another Madden game out. And it's the same with all sports games, and that's kind of the broader topic of this. This machine that is the sports genre, it grinds people up, man. It's crazy, and I'm sure some devs love it. And we focus a lot about grind and how it can affect people and the crunch of being a game developer and how it is important to take time off and not put so much stress on these people. And I'm a creative person, and I understand the mindset of when you're a creative person and you are really into a project and you want to get a project done, you will not sleep. You will sometimes maybe not even eat. Maybe if you eat, it's like a bag of Doritos. See, that's a bad stereotype because gamers love Doritos. But you'll maybe snack on something, but then you're living on coffee or energy drinks, and you're gonna get the project done. I understand that, but that's not a way to live consistently, and that's not something an employer should put its workers through. And that's what it happens in these sports games. And I'll never understand the reason. And I mean, I understand the reason because we want to make money. That's just how it works. But I never understand the idea of consistently making new games where you just why not make just the Madden platform or the NBA 2K platform or MLB The Show, whatever the sports franchise you have, why not make that the platform and then make it a live service game like a Destiny or a Fortnite or something like or Apex Legends, something like that, where it's a live Rainbow Six Siege. I'm just trying to think of live service games, but that is the trend. Why not follow that trend and keep working with that trend, and every so many years release new roster, or not every so many years, every year give the game out, say, all right, here's the base price you're paying. You're paying $60 for this Madden, but in, say, September, maybe right like before the first week of the NFL season, okay, maybe say 2 weeks, because I'm still, they're still trying to figure out their rosters, I guess, if you really want to be super accurate. Why not make that $20 or whatever and make that the roster update, and then that's how you consistently make more money. And then you can almost make it work that way. But I know that wouldn't be what EA wants, because we're in an environment where everybody has to microtransaction and nickel and dime you consistently. Nobody wants to put out a good game anymore. That's not true. There are some great games out there that aren't live service games. I know that, but I'm saying when you have an EA or an Activision or a 2K, they don't care about that. They want to find a way to take as much money out of your wallet as possible, just like Bethesda does with Fallout First. So I understand how they can manipulate it that way, And they don't say, why do that when we could sell a game for $60 and then make you spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on something stupid like the Madden Ultimate Team. Now, again, if you like Madden Ultimate Team, I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm just saying you should think twice about spending your money on that. Because is it really worth it to get those players? Is it really worth the thousands and thousands of dollars to get those players? And if you enjoy it, I understand that. But for majority of people, it's not worth it. And that's where I want to transition into NBA 2K, because I got a bone to pick with NBA 2K. Because, to be honest, much like Madden, they're the only game in town. And I know that NBA Live exists, but not really, because it has not been very good the last few years. NBA Live 19 wasn't terrible. I played it. I picked it up for like $10. It isn't terrible, but they're not even doing it this year. They got to take more time off to figure it out. So NBA 2K is still the top dog, and they have dominated the basketball genre for years. Now, unlike the NFL, they don't have exclusivity rights, so you can have NBA Live games, and you can have other kind of NBA Playgrounds, which is a fun game. It's like NBA Jam. So you can have different NBA games, but if you want the realistic simulation-style sports game, you go to NBA 2K. And rightfully so. The gameplay itself, from what I've played, now I haven't played 2K20. I've heard the gameplay isn't as good or doesn't necessarily live up to the standard they've set. But from what I've played of those games, they're consistently really good games. They're really fun. They're great simulations. It really feels like NBA, like you're watching a game. But at this point, it does not feel like NBA 2K is focused on the money, or focused on the gameplay and making it good for consumers. They are focused on making money. And you can try to argue with me about this, but I think it's pretty obvious when their big selling point this year for NBA 2K20 was literally selling slot machines. There are slot machines in this game for your 2K Ultimate Team, or whatever they want to call it. So their big point was like, well, this year, look at this. Look at these loot boxes. Look at your chances to get these players. What the hell are we doing? Why can't it be something innovative with the game? Why can't it be something new to the game? Why does it have to be focused on stupid things like rolling a slot machine? I understand if you like the Ultimate Team stuff, I get it. But you have to realize that this is not okay. You have to realize that this has gone too far. And the worst part about it is these games, and I've seen this argument before, and I kind of agree with it. The worst part about it is these games are rated E for everyone because they're sports games. My first video, like what got me into video games, started with the NCAA series. That's what got me into it. And it was rated E for everyone because it's fun for everybody. It's sports. It shouldn't be controversial. But it is now because you have a slot machine in your game. And it's predatory on kids. I'm not saying every kid plays NBA 2K, because they're all playing Fortnite. But I'm just saying that when you have a potential player base that is younger, it is extremely predatory to make them to encourage them to gamble and spend their parents' money. Now, I want to be fair on this. The onus is on the parents. I say this with violent video games. When people want to attack violent video games, I want to say the same thing I hear. It is on the parents to know what their kids are playing and interacting with. It is. So parents should be watching if there's a kid playing with a slot machine and saying, wait a minute, how did you do that? Because it's not that, yes, there are like steps to stop you from buying things online. But if anybody's bought anything on Xbox or PlayStation, it's incredibly easy. It is a button press. Yes, they give you the confirmation thing to be like, are you sure you want to spend this money? But it's an kid. Come on, most kids don't care about those consequences. They click that button. It is super easy to do. So on one aspect, yes, parents should pay attention and watch that and make sure that stuff doesn't happen. But there's got to be some sense of responsibility with the ratings board and with 2K. And their marketing is not directly aimed at kids. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to pin it all on them and say they're going for kids and they're making the kids take the money out of the parents' wallet. I'm not saying that. No. Don't get that wrong. But what I'm saying is it doesn't help when you have popular Twitch streamers and that do this stuff and popular things that the kids like in the ads playing the slot machine. It's not okay. And that's what frustrates me. And that is the big problem I'm seeing with sports games. And I understand these companies are businesses and they need to make money. I totally understand that. But we are talking about EA Sports and we are talking about 2K. Take-Two Interactive. You know what Take-Two Interactive owns? Rockstar Games. You know what Rockstar Games, right? The guys that made Grand Theft Auto. That GTA 5 was the highest selling piece of entertainment and continues to top sales charts every month. And that game was released 5 years ago on these current consoles. 6 if you want to go back to 360 and PS3, but I don't think the servers are live on that. But they make so much money on GTA Online. And you have EA Sports, who makes ridiculous amounts of money on Madden Ultimate Team and ridiculous amounts of money on FIFA, and they pretty much rule the roost. And that's just that. We're not even talking about Apex Legends, which EA owns. So I'm not going to shed a tear for these gigantic corporations that have all this money but insist on trying to drain you more. I understand companies and businesses need to make money, but good God. And this just isn't sports games. This relates to all video games. It reaches all games. And this stuff's got to stop. Finally, some courts have stepped in and said, you know what? We probably shouldn't let video games have loot boxes because that's too much. That's too predatory. Finally, it took an outside source to do that, and now you're seeing games start to police themselves because what we've learned about in America, if you want an industry to succeed, private companies have to not let the big bad government take it over because that's nobody's gonna like that. Nobody wants to do that. So now that the government is threatening to do that, they're having to police themselves. Oh, by the way, we're gonna talk about EA. They're also the company that made Star Wars Battlefront 2, a game that was extremely filled with microtransactions, and essentially made it pay to win and got in trouble for it. So I'm not giving you my money for that. And that's the reason why I have Madden NFL 18. That's where I kind of just ended it there, where I said, you know what, maybe I shouldn't give EA any more of my money, and maybe I should just not and do other things and play other things. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I watch a lot of sports. I like sports, and I want to play sports games. I'm passionate about football. I'm passionate about not really, but I'm getting there. It's gotten better because of the podcast I do. But I'm passionate about sports, so I want to play games and still be in those worlds, and make up my own storylines within that sport. Just like people are passionate about different things, and when you consistently mock your fan base by releasing the same game every year and then slapping a new coat of paint on it, updating its roster, and saying, "Oh, this is innovative. This is innovative, guys. We brought the Pro Bowl back to Madden 20." Who gives a shit about the Pro Bowl? I don't. The players don't. The fans don't. I don't even think the city that hosted gives a crap about the Pro Bowl. And that's your selling point? That's your big hurrah? If you did the model that I suggested and you made it a live service and you said, oh yeah, with this year's update, we got a Pro Bowl update. Cool. Because the Pro Bowl is coming, the Pro Bowl will be this weekend. Here's the big update for the Pro Bowl. Here's all the players. Here's all the modifiers. Do things like that. I wouldn't mind that, but when you have the audacity to come out on E3 and say, this is the big selling point, we've got this. Oh, here's another big selling point they had for Madden 20 this year. We've got impact players with special abilities. The concept of impact players was made, not even Madden, it was NCAA Football 06 was when there was the first idea of impact players. But it's different now because they got special abilities. They're not even creative anymore. And I want to really illustrate, I don't think it's the developer's fault. I really don't. I think it's the publishers. I think it's EA Sports. That's the big issue. And the worst part about this is with sports games, with Madden's different than NBA, obviously, but it's really hard for indie devs to make these games and make these games with smaller resources. Take, for instance, Maximum Football. Doug Flutie's Maximum Football 2019. I picked it up. It was $30 because I wanted to support, because I found out that one guy made it. There were 3 people that made this. There was one main developer. I think there was art director, and then a social media person. So 3 people put this game into the wild, and I wanted to support it. And it look, I'll be honest, it's not a great game, but it's also because it has literally a team of 3 people on it. And that's my point. It is so hard to make these games. So of course, the big mega corporations with all the resources and the staff, they get them, and then they do stupid crap like this. And it's extremely frustrating. And I understand there's a bigger problem at hand with these corporations in the world of video games. I understand that it is a much bigger problem there, but to see it on this scale with these people, and it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. And I know it's easy to say vote with your wallet, don't buy the stuff, and I do. But it's not like I want these things to be bad. I don't want these things to suck. I'm not that kind of guy. I know I may seem like that because I get angry and I rant, but I'm not the guy who wants something to fail. I don't go into a movie wanting it to suck. I don't play a game wanting it to suck. Keep in mind, I have a close relationship with these games. Madden and NCAA football was what got me into video games. And then to see EA completely bastardize what they built, I'm going to be a little pissed about it. I'm sorry. That's just the thing. And I'm not alone in this. There's a big movement. Not big enough because it's still selling. Maybe we need to do better in educating people that buy this game and not being a dick about it, not being like, oh, really, you're going to buy Madden 21? Like, really? Like, do you know, how bad it is and blah, 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 and this and that? Don't be a dick about it. You can try to do better. Be like, hey, that's cool. That's interesting that you're in Madden, but do you know that they do this with, what microtransactions are? Well, they do this, this, and this, and it's kind of this way and that way. And then maybe you convince somebody not to buy it. But if they're dead set on it, all right, man, that's your choice. But it's not going to get better if you keep doing that. If you keep accepting the crap that they give you. It's not going to get better. There's a way to talk to people and convince people not to do it. Just don't be a dick. That's all I'm saying. And maybe they can listen to this podcast, and maybe I can be emboldened enough to convince them otherwise. Another thing that annoys me about sports games is, if this wasn't enough, I have to ask, and I'm not a big baseball fan, and I don't play a lot of baseball games, but I do want to know what happened to MLB 2K. Because that was competition for MLB The Show, and it's gone. So now it's just MLB The Show, which, like Madden, it's not good to have one. And the even more egregious thing about it is MLB The Show is a PlayStation exclusive. So if you have if you want to play baseball, if you want to specifically play MLB baseball, you can't. There's RBI baseball, but if you want to play with your favorite MLB team and you do not have a PS4, well, you're SOL, man. That's just the way it is. How is that okay? How have we allowed that to happen? And that's not Sony's fault, or the people that work on that game. It's not their fault. I'm just wondering why that's a thing. Maybe they just didn't think it would be profitable. I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing that I said with Madden, and that's probably the biggest issue, is that name recognition, that brand recognition. And it's not just sports games. It's not just this business in particular. It's every business where you have to deal with the brand recognition problem. But I've always wondered that. Why is MLB The Show the only MLB licensed game? And, you know, what is going on? I don't understand it. I really think I've talked about everything I can with the problem with modern sports games. I know that it came off extremely negative, but that's to me the most frustrating thing is EA and 2K have built such solid foundations for these games and have made fun games. It's just annoying when there's no innovation and laziness put into this, and the idea that they have to sell a product every year at $60 instead of, okay, let's build a platform and then let's update it and make it a live service. Now I understand, you know, let's circle back to I thought I was done, but I'm not. Let's circle back to the people that buy these games for their kids. Say their parents on Black Friday, they're buying these games for their kids. So let's circle back to that. Now, how can we make that easier for parents? I think it's as simple as, okay, so remember how we used to buy this game every year? Okay, well let's just do it this way. Because you see it at Target and like Walmart and big retail stores, you see those cards that are Xbox Live cards or PlayStation Network or PlayStation Plus, I guess, cards that it's like, oh, here is $20 in Xbox credits. So you buy this, you get $20 to spend on whatever you want in the Xbox store. Why not have those? And they have cards like that for Destiny and Rainbow Six Siege and Fortnite and Apex Legends, all these live service games. Why not have one for Madden or NBA 2K, have it accessible there so it's easy for casual consumers that don't have access to it? And you can still sell the game on disc and then buy those cards and scratch them off, redeem the code, and now you have the update, you have the new roster. It's that simple. But as we've found out all episode, EA Sports doesn't care about that, and 2K doesn't care about that. They only care about their bottom line. And that's the biggest crime and most frustrating thing about it. And the only way it's going to change is if we can convince people that this is not okay, and hope the developers take our advice and make changes. I mean, it works for games like No Man's Sky and other games like that in video games. Why can't it work for sports games? Also, we have to and that's, again, another problem. They're in bed with the TV networks. They're in bed with ESPN and TNT and all that stuff. That's what the most frustrating thing is. Well, thank you so much for listening to episode 55 of The Jake Williams Show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you agree with me, comment. Let me know about it. Also, please like and rate and subscribe and all that silly stuff that you do on podcast services. Do that. Always helps out the show. I'd love to get a good rating or a bad rating. You know, if you want to give me a bad rating, that's fine, but whatever. I don't care. Do the same on Loud and Opinionated's YouTube channel. We got all sorts of videos there. I segment these out, but since this is such a broader topic, it might just go up as one thing. We'll see. We'll see what I'm feeling like. Also, like Loud Sports social media. We just got the Facebook up on that, so go ahead and go out and like that if you don't already. And you can follow that at Loud Sports Pod on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Lumberjake5150. And most importantly, whether you like where sports games are headed, I hope not, or whether you don't, be loud and be proud.